Pedal type power meters arguably have more versatility than any other type of power meter because you can easily swap them between bikes. Garmin's latest arrival, the Rally family, builds on this concept, expanding the pedal's potential usage to include off-road terrain. The power meter itself is built into the spindle, and the pedal bodies are interchangeable with a conversion kit for use with road-going Shimano SPD SL or Look Leo cleats, as well as with Shimano's SPDs, which are typically used off-road. Having a power meter that can be used across your road and gravel bike, or even mountain bike, is a sort of versatility that can be a great help for obtaining accurate data across different terrain. Since finding my way onto gravel tracks, I've half enjoyed these outings as a switch off from the fields of data I usually pace my road rides by. You're in the middle of the countryside, away from cars, away from all that power data noise, and it's just bliss. Well, most of the time. Gravel terrain is also tough, with plenty of steep ascents, so I've also been a bit intrigued about my power numbers. While heart rate is a useful metric for gauging how hard you're finding the terrain, there's no denying it is really satisfying knowing how much you are truly trashing the pedals, and this is where the Garmin Rally family can really help you out. The Rally is Garmin's 4th generation power meter pedal, taking over from the Vector Freeze. The model that I have on test is Garmin's Rally K200, which is the dual reading version for Look Leo cleats. RK stands for road with Look Leo cleats, while RS is the road with 3-bolt Shimano SPD SL cleats, and XC for 2-bolt SPD cleats. 100 means single-sided, measuring input from your left leg only and doubling it, and 200 is for the double-sided power measurement. You can start off with the single-sided Rally and then later upgrade if left-right metrics become important to you. The Rallys can be installed and removed with a standard 15mm pedal spanner, which makes it easy to move them between bikes. To connect up, the pedals can be paired with your cycle computer and the Garmin Connect app, as well as training platforms such as Zwift. The Rallys broadcast over ANT+, or Bluetooth, for use of a huge range of electronic devices. If you have a device that is ANT+ compatible, make sure you pair it up with this, as you're less likely to experience dropouts. Next up is performing a zero offset, or calibration as the Garmin Connect app calls it, to obtain accurate data, and this can be done easily from the Connect app or your cycle computer. Garmin recommends performing this zero offset calibration once the bike is fully adjusted to the temperature that it's in for the most accurate results. Garmin reckons this takes about 10 minutes per 10 degrees Celsius. So if you're doing a road ride, pop your bike out first before putting on your helmet, your shoes, filling up your water bottles and so on, then calibrate and off you go. Garmin's temperature compensation should then ensure that that offset is maintained throughout the ride. While the single sensing pedals provide power only, the dual sensing option gives you even more data for advanced performance insights, which Garmin calls cycling dynamics. There's data on left-right balance, power phase, platform center offset, as well as seated and standing time. Power phase is which part of the pedal rotation you're putting the power in, and platform center offset is whether you're pressing more on one side of the pedal platform. It's an impressive tool for sure, but I think Garmin Cycling Dynamics seems more useful if you're recovering from injury. I don't really find myself analysing these metrics on a regular basis. However, the data is there, and so if you find yourself looking for minor adjustments to maximise your performance, you've got plenty to go by. The pedals are powered by a single replaceable disposable CR1 3N coin cell battery in each pedal, or you can use 4 LR44 SR44 batteries, rather than the permanent rechargeable system via USB as used in Favera's Asioma duos. Garmin claims that the Rallys have a battery life of 120 hours. Now that is significantly more than the 50 hours of the Asiomas. What's handy about Rally's battery system is that you can replace drained batteries with fully fresh charged up new ones instantly. You aren't reliant on the main socket or a portable battery pack. On the other hand, it is easier to clip on a magnetic rechargeable cable than to mess around with Allen keys and fiddly batteries. The removable battery covers could be a weak point for water ingress, and when changing the batteries, these doors are also subject to wear and tear. The battery door can be opened with a 4mm Allen key, so not much chance of stripping the socket, unlike with 2mm bolts. Just in case they do get damaged, Garmin has made spare battery doors available. The battery compartment now has a metal thread, and the battery contacts have also been redesigned, as these were both problem areas for some Vector users. Garmin gives an IPX7 water resistance rating. I've ridden in some heavy downpours and have not had any unusual readings since. It appears to me that any issues of water damage have been solved with this new metal thread design. Now, Garmin hasn't sent me another pedal body to test transferring the spindle to, but I have attempted removing and replacing the same spindle to understand the process. First up, you need to gather these tools: a 15mm pedal wrench, a small Phillips screwdriver, a 12mm socket wrench with an outer diameter that's less than 17mm, a wrench with a 12mm socket head, and a 4mm Allen key. That is a fair amount to locate, and the process is a little fiddly, but as with everything, the more you do it, the quicker you'll get. It took me around 15 minutes second time round, for example. So in theory, you could do the swap on a weekly basis, but I'd be more inclined to do so on a seasonal rotation or just before an off-road event or a self-organised bikepacking trip. Garmin claims the Rally power meter pedals are accurate to within plus or minus 1% to the device itself. This is definitely enough for keeping in your intended training zone. As the accuracy percentage is to itself, and it's not intended to be in relation to power meters from other brands, you may be wondering what's the point in comparing the numbers. Well, if you're going between power meters, it could be useful to see how the power meter compares at the lower end and higher outputs. I did a workout comparing data from the Rally Pedals and my Elite Directo Smart Turbo Trainer and Quark D0 power meter after calibrating each device. There's a link to the full workout file with the power readings for each of the 3 power meter systems plotted together on a graph on Zwift Power down in the description below. Across the 10-second and 10-minute efforts, the Rallys consistently gave power readings for the lower and higher outputs that were between the Quark that read low and the Elite that read high. Which of these power meters was providing the truest reading is impossible to say, but at least the Rallys weren't far off the readings of either power meter, which made it possible to stick in the right training zone. Where the Rallys really impress is how responsive they are to pick up when you start and stop pedaling. In one test where I pedaled for 10 seconds and stopped completely for 5 seconds, it was showing 0 watts for 4 and 5 seconds, whereas the Quark would only read 0 for between 1 and 2 seconds, and the Elite didn't drop to 0 at all. To get into the super aerotuck position in Zwift races, so you can sneak in some recovery mid-race, a quick response time is important, as the position is only activated when your power drops to 10 watts or less when you're travelling above 35 miles per hour. The Rallys will cover you excellently for this. This is all great, but what about the price? Well, Garmin has upped the price from the Vector Freeze, which costs $849.99, to between $969.99 to $1,059.99 for the dual reading power meter pedals. This price rise also increases the gap between Garmin's offering and that of Favero's Asioma Duo pedals, which costs £699. Weighing in at 300 grams, the Asioma Duos are also lighter than the Rally pedals I had on test, which tipped the scales at 330 grams. Overall, the Garmin Rally's really impressed, but at that sky-high price, you'd expect nothing less really. Data accuracy is consistent and reliable for training and racing use, as well as measuring your effort across different terrain. With the new metal thread for the battery door closure, the Rallys appear to be much more reliable after rainy rides than the previous Vector 3s. For multidiscipline riders, the Rallys are certainly an appealing system, and this USP could justify the high price. Just one caveat though, riding off-road tends to be a more vicious experience, with pedal strikes being more common. I've only tested the road versions, and so while there is that off-road capability, I cannot comment on its ability to survive these sorts of less avoidable knocks.